Hello, everyone. I am Lauren Wild, and welcome to this week's transmission. So let's get into it, shall we? All right. So this week we are looking at Monday, September the 25th through October the 2nd. And the major piece of this week is the full moon at 6 degrees of Aries on Friday morning in Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to get to that here in a minute. I'll pull up the chart so you can actually physically see it. But what I want to talk about first is a little bit of a retroactive understanding of how this energy has started to play out this week. Now, this weekend, we had the autumn equinox for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere and the spring equinox for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere. So this is a wonderful time if you are really into like ritual and letting things go and bringing awareness into like how you want to foresee what the next season is going to look like. It's a powerful time to do a pause and to really think about what's out of balance in my life, regardless of whether you're in the Northern or Southern Hemisphere. If you are interested in learning more about that, go back one episode where you'll see my autumn equinox transmission and give that a listen, and I'll put the link in the box below. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some of the energetics of this week. If it looks like I'm looking around, for those of you that are listening to the podcast, hang tight with me for a second. I'm trying to do some killing two birds with one stone, which is very much me trying to find that balance of home and work. And so if it sounds a little strange on the transmission podcast side, I apologize about that. I'm learning how to smooth that over. So one of the big things that we had on Monday, it was like 8 in the morning or something like that, Eastern Standard Time, Mercury came into a trine with Jupiter. So Mercury is direct now. It's in the second decan of Virgo. As I'm doing this today on Wednesday, the 27th, it's about 17 degrees of Virgo. So it's starting to get closer to where it was when it stationed retrograde a few weeks ago. So Jupiter is retrograde in Taurus and Mercury is now direct. So when Virgo and Taurus work together, it is about practicality. It's about foundations. It's about keeping things simple and not taking them to extremes. Not necessarily always the easiest with eclipse season around the corner, as well as a full supermoon in Aries. So we'll talk about that more, especially as Venus is direct and is working her way into an exact square with Uranus retrograde in Taurus. It's going to be interesting. That will be exact on Friday at the same time as the full moon in Aries. So that is a powerful time. So about Monday through today, we've really got the power of Jupiter in a trine to Mercury, and that brings about this desire to want to structure, to want to bring health into your conversations or into your mindsets, and to really like look for ways to make things more efficient and to make things easier and build foundations that are going to last. Now, yesterday, the moon was in the late degrees of Aquarius, and then we had a late void of course last night, which brings about this, or Tuesday night, I apologize because it's Wednesday, time is weird. But on Tuesday, last night, the moon moved into Pisces, but there's this about 3 or 4 hour period of what we call a void of course moon. And it is a very strange feeling. It feels kind of aimless, kind of confused, kind of lost. And then it moved into Pisces, which is ethereal and illusions and fantasy and art and music and the muse. You know, I love Pisces moon energy as long as you have nothing really important to do that requires a clear mind. So keep that in mind. Now, as I am doing this transmission today, the moon is moving from the first decan of Pisces into the second decan of Pisces. And the skies are actually really clear from Tuesday until Friday. All right. So we get this like really strange, nice little space where we're being given the opportunity to work through our challenges that were presented to us during Venus retrograde all summer and Mercury retrograde all of August and September. So what we're really wanting to pay attention to is the energy that's coming up with this full moon in Aries. Almost all of my coaching clients, everything has been relationship oriented. It's been about trying to figure out if relationships are going to stick or if they need to be let go of. That is, an interesting conversation, considering that the South Node is in Libra and the North Node is in Aries, which is this great cosmic rebalancing that happens, once every 20 years, from 18 to 20 years. And when the South Node is in Libra, it's very much about recognizing what's out of balance in our relationships, what's not equal, what's not working for us. And then with Aries, it's very much about being authentic to your individual needs, right? So we've got a lot of people doing a lot of parenting, reparenting work, a lot of boundary work, a lot of like worthcraft, a lot of focusing on our own wants, needs, values, and desires, right? Like, what is the foundation, especially with Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn is forcing Pisces to learn skills, to build foundations, to face reality in some meaning, right? Some way. And then we also have Jupiter in Taurus, which is really wanting to build the foundation of something slow and steady. And it is, now that Jupiter is retrograde, it is looking for the periods and the places that are in excess, the things that are not practical, the things that are not going to work out. And it's really, trying to essentially go deeper instead of wider. So Taurus and Scorpio are depth aspects, like all of the fixed signs. Their job is to really develop and cultivate something deep and lasting, right? Now, Scorpio is not super great at building something that's lasting, but Taurus is, and that's where Jupiter is, okay? We'll get more into that as we get to the lunar eclipse in Taurus at the end of October, but we're not quite there yet. So let's go ahead and start talking about Friday. So on Friday, we have a full moon at 5:57 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 6 degrees of Aries. So there's really only two major aspects happening at this full moon. Number one is the full moon. And number two is Venus in Leo square Uranus retrograde in Taurus, which is a big deal. Okay, especially because we've got eclipse season coming up, and the eclipse is going to be in Libra, and Libra rules relationships. Well, Venus rules relationships, and Uranus is a change. It is some sort of, sudden and significant change. So it can bring a lot of volatility into relationships that are not super secure, that are not really stable. It can really test relationships and see if they're really going to make it. You can also have people kind of drop into your life. All right. You weren't expecting someone to show up, and then boom, they're there, and your life is never the same. Because of the fact that Uranus is in the mix, there's always a chance that they can just come right back out. But with Venus direct, I don't know, they could have some lasting effects here, especially with Uranus being in Taurus. So Uranus rules divorce, separation, awakening, disturbances, shocking truths. So it's this really interesting light bulb moment that we get in regards to relationships. It is powerful to utilize if you do spell work or ritual to really cut something off, to end something. Uranus is the energy of cutting something off. It creates a separation, right? So it's powerful in that way. And then the fall is the best time to do banishment work in general. The fall is the best time to do release work. And the release work is 100% necessary to do manifestation work, because where is the manifestation going to land if you haven't made the space, right? So it's a really powerful time to recognize, what is working and what is not. And we'll see what happens under this full moon. Now, the Venus square Uranus retrograde is going to happen until Sunday. So it really picks up on Friday morning, and it's not really over until Sunday. So it's a whole weekend of intensity in relationships. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen for the full moon so that you can see it. but this is our Aries full moon. So hopefully you can see my little pointer. Okay, this is set at Greenwich Mean Time. If you don't pay attention to the rising sign or anything like that, all we're paying attention to is the aspects. So you can see at the time of the Aries full moon, the moon is at 6 degrees of Aries and the sun is at 6 degrees of Libra. They're in exact opposition. So, you know, all Thursday is a pretty big day for these things. Okay. And then we have also got Mars in Libra at 21 degrees of Libra, which is only a few degrees away from coming into contact and an exaction with the South Node in Libra. So like big relationship energy here. It is like something's about to collapse out. Something's about to come to completion. Something's about to run its course. And in the same breath, something new is about to open up. Something new, it needs to have like action taken towards it or courage to overcome something. That's Aries, right? When Libra and Aries work together, this is the access point of me, which is Aries, and we, which is Libra. And all of the polarities really need to learn, you know, how to meet in the middle, to compromise, which is a Libra ideal in its own right. Okay. So we've got, at the time of the full moon, we've got Mercury at 20 degrees. Virgo, we've got Venus at 22 degrees of Leo. And then over here, you can see where we've got Uranus at 22 degrees, retrograde in Taurus. Man, that is intense energy. Intense energy. Leo really being the sun, our willpower, our ability to tap into our strength. You know, it rules the sun card. And then Uranus in Taurus, which is like the shaking of a structure to see if it's going to stand or not. That really is a lot of it. We've also got Jupiter at 14 degrees of Taurus, which is retrograde. And that is really asking us to like double down and figure out like, what do we want to keep and what is too much excess that needs to be let go of, that needs to be shed, so that you can really focus your energy on doubling down and going deeper and getting more precise and getting better quality over quantity. All right. That's very Taurus aspect. Okay. But this right here, to have Mars so close in exaction to the South Node in Libra at the time of the full moon, and then having that Uranus square Venus energy all weekend, that is intense. It's going to test relationships, their durability. And then with the moon in Aries opposite Libra, it is very much the conversation of, you know, who are we as individuals and who are we in relationship? Are they two different worlds? Are they one world that's integrated? How do they, you know, function in two different ways? How do we find the integration point? Where are we sacrificing too much? Where are we not asking for enough, right? So it's very much this self-growth. It really is, because the moon is in Aries and Aries is the self. So it's about self-growth, courage, really digging deeply inside of yourself to figure out like, what is my most authentic expression in relationship to myself and to others, right? How am I going to take action to display that? How is that going to come through in my relationships? And it's this deep understanding with Chiron and Aries that it is who we are in relationship is deeply reflected as to who we are and what we value within ourselves and what we allow, right? So hopefully that makes sense in that way. All right. Now we've got Saturn pulled all the way back to 1 degrees of Pisces retrograde. So it's going to get all the way back to 0 degrees before it stations direct, and this later this autumn, and then it goes all the way back and we get past 7 degrees Pisces. So, you know, we're really in this interesting energy right now of structure, you know, like long-standing structure, but like anything that isn't strong enough is going to get shaken out. Anything that isn't valuable enough is going to dissolve. So it's a really powerful time. One other thing I want to bring your awareness to is that Venus is pressing back down on Black Moon Lilith. And you know, Black Moon Lilith is at 29 degrees of Leo. So it's like the biggest expression. She does not settle. She is like, I am the queen. I know what I want. I will not settle. She can also be very selfish. She can make choices that like hurt and affect other people. But she shows us also like where we are bound in regards to knowing our worth, to being okay with being seen, to being okay with being adored, to be okay with our sexuality, and to not judge ourselves so harshly for it. But she's about to move into 0 degrees of Virgo. And I'll save that for a whole other transmission. But essentially, this is a powerful time to really pay attention to our wants, needs, values, and desires, and take some time noticing like how those play out in our day in and day out relationships. Okay. Now, in the final parts of the weekend, besides the fact that we've got Venus square Uranus energy carrying us all through the weekend, on Saturday, September the 30th, which is my birthday, by the way, we have Mercury and a semi-sextile to Mars, which means it's only 30 degrees away. This is a powerful aspect. It really brings like a mental keenness and a sharpness, especially because Mercury is in Virgo. It allows us to be like really clear, really direct, but it can be also pretty sharp. It can be kind of mean and not really have a lot of like kindness, softness, love, like Venusian energy in it, right? It's especially with Virgo, which is very practical and just like direct. And then Mars in Libra, which can be like very curt, Queen of Swords, King of Swords, like their truth is so important. It's truth, but like it can come out really harshly, like shrewd is a word that I would say. Okay, and then Mercury comes into a trine with Uranus later that day, which brings like change in communication, like some sort of like change in the mind or awareness. And that plays into also Venus in a square to Uranus. So like we could definitely see some chance encounters. You could meet people that are really intriguing. You can also like meet some people that like bring a lot of change into your life or change your mind about something. But it's an intense aspect that can bring a change in communication style. Communication between relationships could like come to an end, could get started, could get like put into strategy. But then the other piece is on Sunday, we've got Mars in Libra coming into a quincunx with Uranus. And this is like feeling like a rock in a hard place. This is like, I don't know what to do about this relationship. I don't know how to handle it. It makes us feel anxious. It makes us feel cut off. You know, like we don't know how to make it happen. It's just everything is in a juxtaposition. It can feel very frustrating. And like you just have to temper yourself with this because Uranus is involved, which is like breakdown energy. Okay. And then the last aspect for this week is the fact that Mercury comes into a semi-sextile with Venus, which is more helpful, but that's not until Sunday. That's like kind of like smooth things out and help us figure out like the truth of the situation. People can resolve things. You'll see more clearly. So my big thing to say this week is that this is a weekend of like major reflection, but also it could be like very volatile. It could be highly emotional, highly charged, lots of anxiety. Whenever we've got Uranus involved, it brings up anxiety and it heightens the nervous system. So if you have a sensitive nervous system like I do, you want to prioritize water, rest, staying away from the thing that triggers you and in like large doses, making sure that you can like come back down, stay in your body, ground, and always exercise, especially within Aries, full moon, and all of the Virgo aspects in Mercury that are going on. It is like movement. You need to move your body. You need to exercise and you need to get it out. Okay. My ritual of choice on Friday is a cord cutting ritual to anything, anyone that you know that you need to cut ties with, all right, or you need to complete something with. Because of that Uranus Venus energy, that is super powerful if you're trying to cut ties with someone, something. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put the link in the description box below so you can watch that video and know what to do. It's pretty simple. But this is also a time of being aware of like what is happening in relationships. What do you want? What do you not want? Noticing like where you flail when you don't have control. All of these things are self-awareness, and there are ways that we can heal and become more integrated over time. I hope that this was helpful for you guys, and I will see you next week. Until then, I hope you guys have a great Aries full supermoon.